Well, good morning, everybody. All right, I heard you worshiping. I know that you got a little more in you than that. So, good morning, everybody. That's much better. We are in this new series called Waking the Dead. And as you've seen, we kind of took a little theme from The Walking Dead, right? And so you kind of see this, and we stole that a little bit. And I want to say thank you first because all of this happened because of Annie, who's sitting back there, and she's not going to really want to take... And her husband Aaron, and they've really stepped up and really helped us out tremendously, doing all these different things that we have, that like the mountain inside of there, the prison here. We have another set that we're doing in 3 weeks because we're doing a new series called Blockbusters, and Blockbusters are going to do movies. So if you were here, like when I did the commercials, we're going to do movies, but we're going to do it a little better than what we did the last time. So we're going to have a whole bunch of funny stuff and things that we bring together. But guess what, guys? She needs help with this. So we're looking for people to volunteer along, help, and just become creative. So if you have that creative gene inside of you, or maybe you think you have that creative gene, we can tell you don't, but you can come in and help us with this. You know, I don't have a creative gene, and I actually helped yesterday, so it worked out pretty well. Anyway, let's dive in. So we're in this new series, and today we're talking about becoming alive. You know, as you dive into the Bible, you read so often about that sin separates us from Jesus, and sin separates us from God. And in fact, when he sees us as being dead to him. Because that's what that sin does. That sin separates us so much. And it's almost like he forgets about us. He doesn't really forget about us, but it's almost like that. Because he looks at us and he goes, it was just a memory. You know, if you take Biggie Smalls, it was just a dream. And that's how it is sometimes. You just look at it and he sees and he goes, I want you to be alive in Christ. I want you to be alive in me. I want you to have this life. And so often we run the other way. We go, I'm not going to do my thing. And we just sit there and we end up perishing away. We end up putting ourselves inside of a prison. How many of you at some point have disappointed yourselves or disappointed others? Anybody? You disappointed yourself? You let yourself down maybe? How many of you have dissatisfied yourself? You just feel dissatisfied at times. And you start looking at this. You look at the hands. All of us have this. It's not something that's strange to anybody in the room. All of us have had the same things. You know, for me, or maybe for some of you too, anybody in here ever yell at their kids? Anybody? Maybe? You know, maybe you thought that harsh love was going to work. You know, you get over here. You know, it's like, oh, okay, Dad, I'll give you a hug. You know, that's what, you know, and I don't think that always works all the time. Maybe you've been overly critical. Anybody in here overly critical? Like you right now, you're looking up at the stage right now and you're going, oh, they did something wrong. I see it. That's not the details of the show. You're overly critical because this looks amazing right now, by the way. Considering what we've had for the last 2 years, this is even way better than amazing. You know, and so you start looking at this and you start going, we are overly critical of ourselves a lot of times. We actually make ourselves perish because we are so overly critical of ourselves. We look at ourselves and we make it to where we go, well, I'm never going to get it done right anyway, and we go hide. We try and solve problems by raising our voice. I did it with my daughter this morning. She came over to me, and she's not a happy camper today. She was up a little late, and she's just not a happy camper. She didn't want to do anything, and if you know us, at our house, we leave before they do. We get up in the morning, Melissa and I, we come over here, and my oldest daughter has the responsibility of getting our children ready to come over here. And she does this usually extremely well. You guys would never, ever know that we had difficulties this morning because usually there is no difficulties. But then when a 9-year-old wakes up and says, no, I'm not doing that, things change. And you go, well, how do we fix this? How do we do this? And for me, my answer is I don't have time for that, so I try and solve it the easiest way I know how, and I scare her. You know, that's what I do. I try and become like Sully from Monsters, Inc. and, you know, hey, boo, boo, you know, and I get on top of her like that. And sometimes it works, but other times it doesn't. And a lot of times it actually just separates us. It's kind of like what the sin does with us and God. It separates us. It creates this divide. We always go, I want to be a better person. I'm going to try harder. I'm going to become religious. I'm going to become religious. I'm going to go to church. Maybe God has a part, you know, and really that's not the answer a lot of times. Religious behavior can make you nice. That's what it can do. You can come in here and you can act religious and you can go every place and that religious behavior can make you nice, but only Christ can make you alive and new. Only Christ can give you that new life and make you alive to where he breathes into those dead bones. Follow Christ. You not just have a better life, but you become alive and you become new in the sight of Christ, in the sight of God. It's a big change. It's a big difference. In 2 Corinthians 5, and it's a verse that I was telling my staff during staff meeting. It's a verse that I like to go to all the time. And I tell them, I said, I almost beat this one to death just because but it's so critical and it's so important, and it's the foundation of why we believe. And it says that one time we thought of Christ merely from a human point of view. How differently we know him now. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone and a new life has begun. Now, I want you to just look at this verse. Really look at it. Who belongs to Christ? Do you actually belong to Christ? Now think about this. Do you act like it? So and the way I'm going to say this is because think of yourself as a possession for a moment. Think of yourself how do you treat your car? Is it your car? What do you expect it to do? When you put the key into it, what do you expect it to do? You expect it to turn over. When you turn it right, you expect it to go right? You don't expect it to, I'm turning the wheel right, and all of a sudden it goes left. You don't expect that, right? The car belongs to you. You expect it to act your way, the way that you're directing it. When you belong in Christ, Christ is trying to direct you. He's trying to give you direction, and he's going, go right. Turn right. And you go, nope, I like the cliffs over here. They're so pretty. And you make the left-hand turn, and you just run yourself into a wall so often. Instead of going, I want to belong in Christ. I want to have this life in Christ. I want to follow the directions that he's laid out for me. No, I want to go my direction. I like the beat that I'm dancing to. And so often, we end up going our own direction and not really having that new life, and we can become separated, and we end up having this death that separates us. That new life is there for us. And the thing is that you may be looking at me and you may be going, oh, Mike, I want to be like you. You don't want to be like me. I don't want to be like any of you. You shouldn't want to be like me. What we should try and do is we should try and want to grow closer to Christ and be like Christ. Grow towards Christ. Be there. God has laid out a plan for each one of us, and he said that you are going to do this. Grow towards that. Don't worry about what other people say you are, or what other people say about this, or what everybody posts on Facebook. Who cares about that? Do what God has asked you to do, and stop looking backwards, because when you look backwards, you're going to get dragged backwards. It's going to end up being who you are, and it's your life. It's always going to be living back in the past. You're going to continue looking back and you're going to rehash all the addictions, all the hurts, all the pains from back then. And that's what happens all the time. You're going to go, oh, this is what I have to do. Look, this is what I was. I was a failure back then. I'm always going to be a failure. It's not the case. You know, we tell people, I played an invite video because, our church, we're pretty invitable to. We have one of these places that it's easy to open the door up and say, come on, come check this out. Come spend some time with us. And a lot of times, people don't feel welcome. Do you know that? Do you know that people don't feel welcome walking in the doors of a church? You know that they're hurt. They have all these pains going on. They don't feel welcomed. And it's not our church. It's all churches in general. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not just here. It's everywhere. People just don't have that welcoming feeling. You go, oh, I'll go to church. I don't feel very welcomed. And they don't really see how God has transformed us. They don't see that life, that old life, and transformed us into this new life. What they really see is they see, oh, you're just trying to get me in to get my money. That's what they see all the time. Oh, you're just after that weekly tithe check. You're like, no. You just want to build that building. You want to do this. You want to do that. And the real thing is that true life transformation, it's amazing, is that I run into people from my past, people who knew me when I was out running around acting a fool. And I tell them, they go, what do you do now? I go, I pastor a church. And they go, yeah, no. I go, no, really, that's what I do. They go, and then they automatically go, well, God has done some amazing work. I know, hasn't he? I know. Because they know the transformation. They know what the old life was and then what the new life has become. They see it. They look at it and they go, you were dead once. You should have been dead because of how you were acting. And all of a sudden, you can see what God has done, the transformation that he's made. And anybody from my past sees it. You don't see it because you've only seen me as a Christian. Oh, he's a good Christian. I'm not a good Christian. Just hang out with me for a day. You'll really figure it out. But I'm telling you is that we all come along and we all have these things that separate us. But for me, transformation was dramatic. I remember when I became a youth pastor. I started serving at a church. And when I started doing this, you got to remember is that I didn't feel qualified. And a lot of times I don't feel qualified to be here now. And I really didn't feel qualified back then. I was just like, well, I don't know why I'm doing this, but God has asked me to do this. God has asked me to step out and serve. And one day, senior pastor of the church came up to me and he asked me, he said, who are you inviting to church? Who are you inviting to church? And I go, I don't know. People I talk to and they seem interested in church. And he goes, those are the wrong people to be inviting to church. He's all, they're probably already in church. He's all, the ones that we need to be inviting are the ones that are far from God, the ones that he looks at and he sees that they are dead in his eyes. Because they are so far, they're just living this life of sin. He goes, how many of those people have you invited? And I said, none. I just haven't. And he goes, so have you really had new life? Do you have a heart that hurts for others that are not being reached by Christ? And I said, well, maybe not. You know, it gets to this point where you have to think about it, and you have to start going, what have I done to change that? What have I done? Because every one of us, anybody in here ever invited anybody to church? It doesn't have to be this church. Maybe you invited somebody to a different church. Maybe you're like, Mike, you suck. I would never invite anybody here. I'm just here for the pew miles. You know, that's okay. And, you know, and so, but if you say that have you ever had anybody tell you no? Anybody ever just flat out no? And you felt rejected? They're like, hey, come to church with me one time. And they were like, church? No. You're like, And it almost makes you gun shy to ask the next person, right? You're like, well, I don't want to ask the next person after that. And I see certain people shaking their heads. They're like, no, I just ask everybody. That's because you have a heart for the broken. You have a heart for people that are far from God. But if you don't, if you're just like doing it because Mike asked me to, I invite 5 people, I better invite them. And they tell you no, well, the next 4 are going to be harder and harder to invite. That's just what happens. But the problem is that we're all so far from Christ. They're all so far away. See, Jesus didn't invite just the rich people, people that thought they could make a difference to the bottom line of the church. He invited the broken, the hurting. He invited friends and relatives that, you know, that were so far away. You know, he sat back and he said, you know, you're never going to pay me back, but this is going to be a way that you can come in. And he invited everybody. Everybody he encountered, he had a talk and he conversated about God with them. What about you? Have you had that transformation where in your life people look at you and go, something's different? You obviously belong to Christ. And everything you talk about is a change. Everything. It comes out and you're like, this is what's going on. In Luke 14:13 it says, but when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Invite them all, and you will be blessed. Jesus invited those that were often overlooked. He invited those that were far from him, and they were often overlooked. And so often, those are the ones that have made the most dramatic difference in what we call the movement of Christianity. Those are the ones that have made the furthest difference. The fisherman that was an outcast. You know, if you look at it and you start looking at Peter, and you look at Simon when he was originally called, and you see that I'm going to build this church upon this rock. And Simon wasn't much for people to be looking at and going, oh, he's amazing. He's going to do such great work for the church. And he came in, and if you've ever been watching the Bible series at all, obviously he is the one that's been the stand-up, this pillar for the church, that after he made that denial of 3 times, he continues to stand up and do what God has asked him to do and what Christ has asked him to do. I played the video and it says that he didn't come for the healthy, he came for the sick. When he found you, how sick were you? When he found you, how far? I know some of you are going, I was raised in the church. Well, you've had some sickness while you were in the church probably. But how far were you? How sick were you? What was going on? When you were found, where were you at? What are the the principles that you stand upon now because of what Christ has done. And it said, I'm going to change you. You're going to have this transformation. And if nothing changed, then the transformation isn't complete yet. Jesus didn't come for the healthy. He came for the sinners, the righteous. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is needed. Everyone is changed. That's what happens here. Your doubts, fears, problems, addictions, it all goes away. You know, we walk in here, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but on a regular basis, I wear jeans. I haven't gotten up here and preached in flip-flops and shorts, but I will at some point when it gets hot enough. You know, it's not like we have some sort of special dress code here. Some people come in dressed up in nice stuff, and other people come in looking like they just rolled out of bed. And that's okay. The only dress code we have here is we just want you to dress. Just don't show up naked. Just don't walk in and be like, hey, what's up? I heard this was like an Adam and Eve type church. No, man. You know, put some clothes on. And that's really where we're at. We just want we want to be able to open the door and just welcome everybody, broken, hurt, whatever's going on. Invite everybody. When you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Think about the people you invite to your parties. Anybody in here recently have a party? Who'd you invite? Just your buddies? You invited people over that were your friends, right? You didn't go around town and be like, hey, come on over. Except for KJ. KJ invites everybody. He just gives them a postcard. Come on, come check this out. Jesus accepted you as you were, and he changed you, and he helped you move forward. Jesus accepted you where you were, but he wouldn't leave you where you were. He moved you forward. He had you do something different. Some of the things that I always look at this thing, and I look at what's alive. And some people think that they have this dead marriage, that their marriage is just going nowhere, it's dead, and there's just like no progress in it and what's going on. And Isaiah 43:19, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland. You may need new hope. You may need this hope for your marriage, your finances, your health, whatever it is. And you've been wandering in this desert going, there's no hope in this relationship. There's no hope in what our bank account looks like. There's no hope here. And there is this hope. There's this transformation that is offered. We're told in the Bible that there is a way that is a spring is made in the desert. For all of those things that are broken, all those things that are hurt, there is a way that is made in the desert. Even when you look at it and you've been wandering the desert. I told somebody this week as I was at a lunch, and I told somebody this week, I didn't want to name drop, but I had to name drop at the same time. I had lunch with Chris Tomlin this week. And the Chris Tomlin, yes, that one. And as we were sitting there and we were having lunch, I was talking to somebody and I said, don't continue to wander the desert for 40 years. He asked Moses to do that. He didn't ask you to do that. Stop wandering the desert. Guys, there is hope. There is hope in your relationship. There is hope for life. There is hope in your finances. Start following what the Bible has asked you to do. Start looking at it and start going, what does it ask me to do in my relationship? Do you love one another? Do you truly love the person that God has brought you together with? Do you truly love that person? And then by I mean that is that if you're the man in the relationship and you go, well, she needs to submit to me because I heard that line often. Are you willing to sacrifice yourself for her? Are you willing to give up everything, including your life? Because if you're not willing to do that, then never expect her to sacrifice and submit to you. If you're not willing to give up everything and go, I will treat you that way. Remember, the church is Christ's bride. That's how your relationship should be. Loved it. Did everything for it. Is that what your relationship looks like? Are you willing to love it and do everything for it? Sacrifice yourself. Spend a night out in the streets with people that are lost in order to make it to where it's stronger. I'm not saying to go out and do that, but I'm saying is that are you willing to do that? Are you willing to have that sacrifice that it's going to take? Are you wandering in the desert through your relationship and going, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be going through here? It's a new thing, a way in the desert. When there doesn't seem to be a way, God makes a way. He makes all things new and brings life to all of them. He awakes the dead. That dead marriage, he awakes it, brings it to life. I was telling you about myself, is that in my past, I had hurt so many people. I had just gone off, and relationships didn't really matter, and not relationships with the opposite sex, but relationship with just people in general. I just, it was like, what were you here for? You're here for me. And so as I went along and I started making amends to people, I started going back and I felt convicted I needed to talk to people and say I'm sorry, and I just wanted to really emphasize that I wasn't that person anymore, that God had really made a transformation. And I started talking to people and I started having this relationship and talking and going, I'm not that person anymore. It's amazing on how he took those relationships and made them new. Now, some of them people didn't want to have a relationship with, of course, I'd hurt them. But a lot of people were like, yeah, absolutely. And it's become tighter and better and stronger. Do we hang out all the time? No. I hang out with my best friend, my wife. That's who I hang out with. That's who I talk to on a regular basis. Look at your life. One of the things I tell people all the time, and I can tell you I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit, because this week when I was writing the message, on Thursday we had staff meeting, and I wasn't done with it yet. And I was still sitting there, and everybody asked me, how far are you along in it? And I said, nowhere. I hadn't done any of it. This week was kind of chaotic for me. And so I started touching on the points where I started looking at it, and I started going, I know marriages are hurting. I know people are hurting, and I know people seem dead, and I know the direction I wanted to go. And I just started grabbing verses that meant tremendous amounts to me, where I've looked at my life and I've looked at what God has transformed through me, through these verses, and I said, these are things that I think that people need to see in this transformation that we can do here. And so if it seems like I'm bouncing around a little bit, I am, because I bounced around a little bit this week. And I'll tell you, as a church, I look at this and I go, people ask me, why is the Edge growing? Because if you were here 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, now it's 4 years, you would look and go, this place, why has it grown? What has happened here? What is, and I tell you people, and I'll tell you right now, is that I won't stop believing big. I think big. I have a big vision. I look at things and I go, we can do more. We can do more with even less than what we do now. I look at it all the time and I go, how do we do this? How can we make this better? How can we make this to where people walk in here and they go, this has been the most impactful and the greatest change that's happened as they walk in this door. I preached a series on it a couple weeks ago, and I told you is that we are faith-filled here. We are big thinking, and we are willing to bet the farm every time. We are willing to give it all up. We are. That is one of these principles that we live with here. I will never insult God with small thinking, ever. I will never look at it and go, you can't do that, God, because I know that he can do anything I ask. My question for you is out of this, what are you asking God for? Have you really looked at this and said, I'm willing to bet the farm on this, and I'm willing to really pursue God and ask and do what he's asked me to do? Because a lot of times we're not. A lot of times we're not willing to bet the farm in order to put our faith on the line. And even ask somebody to come to church, ask somebody to, hey, let's start this over. Our relationship hurts. Let's start figuring out how we can do this. Let's bet the farm together. Let's risk it all. I heard people, sometimes I'll reach out and I'll be calling people when I'm not busy, and I go, what's going on? How come I haven't seen you at the Edge lately? Oh, it's getting too big. What? Getting too big? That's cool. And in some people's eyes, they really wanted that small, intimate atmosphere that we had, that we did for so long. They wanted that. And for me, I love churches of all size. I do. I love big churches because I think they do amazing things, and I love really, really small churches. But I'll tell you right now is that churches need to grow. The worst thing that we can do, and the most insulting thing we can do to God, is to say that we're going to hold the church and selfishly. We're not going to grow. That's the most selfish thing we can do as a church. It's our responsibility to grow and to grow the kingdom and to go out and reach people and to go and to love. And for people to go, no, we got to stay small. No, we have to do both at the same time. We need to grow bigger, but also stay smaller at the same time. How do we do that? So as you walked in today, you walked past a table and it had a whole bunch of small groups on it. And I look around this room and I look and I go, there might be 10 of you that have signed up on that small group, except for the women's group. The women's group, everybody signs up for that one. You love it. It's like, woo, let's go to women's group. Ah. I'm not jealous. You guys all show up to hear me on Sundays, so it's, no jealousy. No. But but guys, the problem is you're never going to grow in your relationship with God and with the people in this church. And you're going to go, it's getting too big, I don't know anybody, if you're not part of a small group. There are so many different types of groups out there. There's a group on healing. There's a group that if you have a child and you want to go get them in a pool without having to go to one that's actually out at the public where people have been urinating in the pool, there's one that you can actually take your children to and talk to people and make friendships. But we don't sign up for that. We go, no, it's got a pool, it's water. No, it hasn't been 105 degrees out. Can't sign up for that one. Guys, what are we doing? You go, I don't have any friends. I don't have any friends at the church. What group are you in? Because if you're not in a group, you probably don't have any friends. And if you're expecting me to be your friend, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can know you, and I might have friendships with some of you, but there's a lot of you here. And so if you're expecting me to be each and every one of your close, personal, intimate friend, I'm going to let you down. I'm going to. I'm telling you right now. And I just want you to know is that you have to get in a group. Don't walk out of here today going, Mike didn't tell me to sign up for a group. I'm telling you, sign up for a group. Get in a group. Sign up for the huge women's group. That's fine. Get into that one. Sign up for the pool group. Sign up for the healing group. Sign up for a group. I know that my group meets at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's because if you're a guy and you have a job, I want to be able to get you coffee, and I want you to get some stuff to be able to get you on the road and have a good day. That's all I want. And then you get to be my friend, because we're going to get to know each other. So show up for that group. I should have 24 of you. That's what she has in hers. No, I'm kidding. We're never going to be too big as a church. I'll tell you that right now. As long as there is one person who doesn't know Christ, we are going to continue trying to grow this church. That's what's going to happen. We are going to continue to try and grow over and over and over again. Why is the Edge growing? You care. That's why. You care. We grow because of you. We're not growing because of what I do. We're growing because you care. You reach out. You invite. You do the work. Philip found Nathanael and he said, we have found the one Moses had wrote about in the law, and about the one whom the prophets have wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Nazareth? Can anything good come from there? And Daniel said, come see. Come and see. Have you asked somebody to come and see? Have you said, hey, come on. Come check out this church in a warehouse. The hole in the wall place. Come and see. Come and see what's there. Let me tell you guys, so far this year, we've just started the second part of this year. We're just literally first Sunday of the second part of the year. We've had 61 new salvations out of this building. 61. Yes, we count those. And yes, clap. That's a big thing. 61 salvations, 61 people that have come to know Christ. That is huge. Huge. Why? Because of you. Because you invited. Because you greeted at the door. Because you were welcoming. 61 salvations. Are they all here now? Of course not. Some of them grown up and gone to other churches. Some of them have moved away. Some of them have done other things. But they came and they got to know Christ. And they experienced Christ. And it happened here. Some of them are just on vacation today because it's the day after 4th of July. God is real. We are new people. We're born again and we're new right now. There's a Pharisee, his name is Nicodemus, and I put this in my notes because he tries to come and he tries to approach Jesus under the cover of night. You know, he comes to him, and he comes to talk to him. And I used it when I talked about him the first time. I call him Nick at Night, because that's what he does. He tries to show up at the Nick at Night thing, and he tries to come to Jesus, and he's talking to him. And he says, and he asks him, he says, he's a member of the Sanhedrin, by the way, so it's like the Supreme Court of the Jewish people. And he's a member there. And he comes out, and he really comes in here, and he starts talking to him, and he asks him about the 600 commandments, and he really has this conversation with him. And Jesus tells him, he goes, Rabbi, I know you're from God. You have to be. And in a reply, Jesus declared, he says, I tell you the truth, no one can come to see the kingdom of God unless he is born again. Nobody can come unless they are born again. And he asks him, he says, how can you be born again? Surely you can't go back into your mother's womb. Surely you can't. And Jesus answered, I tell you the truth, no one can enter the kingdom of God unless he is born of the water and of the Spirit. Flesh gives birth to flesh, but the Spirit gives birth to spirit. And you should not be surprised at my saying, you must be born again. It's not an improvement of your old life. It's a new life. It's something new that happens right now. You turn over a new leaf, is what we like to say. Well, instead of turning over a new leaf, why don't you experience new life? You know, that's really what it comes down to. You go, I'm gonna make this major change. Well, instead, why don't you experience what new life truly is? Now, I want to ask you is that you start thinking about your life. And I have you guys do this every once in a while. I want you to close your eyes. Just close your eyes and bow your heads a little bit. And here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about the last 2 weeks of your life. Just the last 2 weeks. And I want you to start thinking about the hurts. I want you to think about the pain that's happened in your life. I want you to think about your relationships. I want you to think about the relationship with your spouse, your significant other that God has brought together. I want you to think about the relationship with your friends and your coworkers. And then I want you to start thinking about another thing, is that how much have you hurt those people around you? How much pain that you caused that you didn't even think, that you didn't even know it. It just happened. You just ended up hurting them. And maybe it was a subtle thing. Now I want to think about your relationship with God. How many times have you hurt that relationship? Just in the last 2 weeks. Maybe with anger. Maybe you lied about something. Maybe you just started choosing your own direction rather than what God's direction for your life was. Maybe it became the me show rather than God's show. I want you to think about that for a second. What sort of prison are you living in right now? While we're walking free and we're out there and we're doing everything that God has asked us to do, what prison are we living in right now that we've become dead to God? That we've made it to where we've separated ourselves so much because it's become the me show and the sin show and what I want, and I'm just going to hurt people. Now I want to read something to you as you keep your head down, and I want you just to at one time we thought Christ from merely a human point of view. How differently we know him now. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone and a new life has begun. The old is gone and new has begun. Just from the last 2 weeks, do you need to start again? Do you need to go, God, I need this. I need this forgiveness, and I need this new life. I need to wash away these sins. I need it to be gone because I know that I'm separated from you. I know that I've hurt not only you, but the people around me. That I've hurt myself because I've deprived myself of you. God, I continue to try and do it my way, where it's self-serving. It's instead of your way, where it's glorifying. And it reaches everyone, where we show love, and everyone matters. Not just me, but everyone. That new life can begin right now. Even if you've raised your hand thousands of times in the past, that God looks at it and goes, my son and my daughter has come home, and I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for them to start again. I've been waiting for them to try. I've been waiting for them to try and pursue me. I've been waiting for them to try and love. Will you pray with me? Just keeping your heads down, pray with me and say, Father, I want this new life that's promised to us. I want this new life that you said that I can have. It's not just about turning over a leaf. It's about starting new with you. Father, I want that new relationship because I've hurt others. And I just want to have a new relationship with you so I can love and truly know what it means to be loved. God, I know that you've continued to put your hand out for me, but I continue to run and sin and hurt. And you sent our brother, the one who was perfect, to help bring us all home. To sacrifice himself for each one of us so that we could come home to you, to have this new life. Father, thank you. I want that. I want each of us to want it. If you'll keep your head down, did you pray that with me? If you did, if you prayed that you just started looking at this and you said, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this new life, that I'm ready to really start pursuing God, that I'm really trying to start doing it now, that I might make a mistake, but I want to do it now. Can you raise a hand for me? Can you just put a hand up saying, God, I want to pursue you. I want to love you. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to say anything about it. Nobody's going to say a word about it. Nobody's going to say, oh my God, he put your hand up during service. Nobody's going to come by and steal your wallet. It's time for us to really start loving and pursuing and trying to pursue love in one another and doing life with one another. You can put your hands down. Father, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this offer. Thank you so much for this direction. Thank you so much for showing us how we can become alive in you. From our past, from our hurts, from where we were sick in the past, from broken marriages, from broken jobs. That with you, we can make it all new. Father, thank you so much. Please give us the strength as we walk out of here today to keep you in the forefront, to where we are pursuing you and doing life with you and honoring you daily. That we remembered that you have opened this prison, that you've let us out, that you've given us this new life, this chance to do life with you. Father, we're so thankful. So thankful we even got this opportunity to ask to do it again. Maybe it was our first time. I thank you. It's in your Son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen.